Welcome to Healing Honeys, the podcast for girls with big dreams trying to balance it all. I'm Louise Rumble, serial entrepreneur, type A overachiever, healing girly, and holistic wellness coach who also once got called the Jesus of modern dating. But let's get one thing straight. My healing era has never been calm. I'm talking savage dating stories, 20 cigarettes a day, daddy issues, an anxious attachment style, and an autoimmune disorder too. Today, I've spent thousands of dollars on healing and therapy, and now I'm here to guide you, love you, and laugh with you as I share my favorite tips, tricks, and rituals that have saved me along the way. With new episodes every Wednesday, expect girl talk, psychology, and the nervous system, as well as love, sex, and dating, wellness, fitness, and a little bit of business and spirituality too. So get in, honey. We are balancing healing, hustling, and life, and the best is yet to come. And if you're looking for ad-free listening or my somatic healing subscription daily devotion, just head over to the show notes. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Healing Honeys podcast. I am so excited for this one. Today, I am here with Kela Rose. She is from Hawaii, which is literally the coolest fucking thing I've ever heard. And she's also the host of the Skinny Dipping podcast. She has inspired me for really quite a long time now to be able to express myself freely about my spiritual beliefs, about my mental health beliefs, about my healing beliefs. She is beautiful. She is embodied. She is inspiring. And we are here together in person today, recording in London, in the United Kingdom. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, this is literally a dream being with you on your podcast. I'm just like incredibly excited, and I feel so honored, honestly, that you wanted to have me on too. I wanted to have you on, but I'm like, you want to have me on too? What? That's
Yes.
so sweet. And I feel like we're going to have the most beautiful conversation today. I'm excited to see where it flows, where it goes. And we just recorded such a fun podcast with you on Skinny Dipping, and just thank you. You're amazing.
Yeah, you guys should go and listen to that one. It was
Crossover.
Yeah, it was crossover, but like I opened my heart like we just went there like real fast, but that's
Yeah, sometimes it's easier on somebody else's podcast, I think, to almost like fully open up, because you're like, well, like it's a little bit less attachment, you know?
Exactly. And we'll link that episode so everyone can go and listen and check you out and check your podcast out. But today we're going to be talking about how to become a spiritual girly, the 101 of spirituality. And I think that spirituality has been a huge part of my journey. I grew up with meditating, tarot card reading, Reiki healing mum. So this has been part of my life forever. And the fact that it doesn't come out in my day-to-day content is interesting. I think that's something we can get into today, like the block around sharing those truths. But I know that we're seeing it being something that's picking up speed more and more, as it should. That makes it sound like a consumer brand, like picking up speed. But, you know, it's like everyone's talking about angel numbers. And
people are waking up, you know? It's just like what is happening collectively, energetically, collectively. People are waking up.
And when you say waking up, what do you mean by that? Because some people will be like, oh, I've heard that term before.
Totally.
What do you think that means?
Well, I think for me personally, like I didn't grow up around spirituality. Actually, I grew up where my mom was raised Christian. My dad was raised Jewish. So when they had me later on, like in their 40s, when they were older, they didn't raise me with anything. So it wasn't like I was atheist, but I wasn't religious and I wasn't spiritual. And it was super interesting because I came into this practice by myself and just like through life experience and out of pure necessity. I think we can talk about it later, but I was really angry. And that was like what kind of brought me into my journey, because I was so tired of lashing out on people that I love, saying things that I didn't mean. But what I mean about waking up is before I was practicing spirituality and devoted to that practice, I was unconscious. Like I was going about life not fully aware of my daily actions, and I wasn't living presently in the moment, except when I was like dancing, singing, making art. That obviously brought me directly to the present moment, directly to my spiritual connection. But just in my day-to-day life, like I wasn't living intentionally. So that's what I would say waking up is realizing, wow, like what if I got to wake up every single day and live intentionally? And when I live intentionally, how lit up do I feel? How much more inspired and expanded do I feel when I am living intentionally and I'm making conscious choices and decisions in my life? Because before, I was making all my decisions unconsciously, what I thought I should do versus what my spirit, soul, self really desired and really wanted. So it's really waking up is living intentionally.
I love that. And realizing that actually our whole life we've been, like you said, doing things that we think we should be doing or being programmed by thoughts that were programmed by our parents, our siblings, our institutions,
We're
our government,
conditioned, of
right?
course, at a very young age to be like, this is the path that you should go on, and this is what you do with your daily life, and these are the relationships that you have, rather than being like, what do I want? Like, what does my soul want? What is going to light me up? So,
I love that.
yeah, when I started living intentionally, it really did change my life. And it was like such a practice that needed to happen. Like I did not know how to do it. Like I still like fall back into such unconscious patterns, like even 7 years into my spiritual journey. And I give myself grace in the process. And I actually believe like falling off the tracks is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves, because when we fall off the tracks and we fall off our spiritual practice or our habits, like for me, it's movement, meditation, and breath work are my go-to habits that ground me into my spiritual connection. Right now, I've fallen off of that while I've been traveling, but I've developed this relationship where I love to fall off because it reminds me that I need it, first of all. And it also reminds me that I'm making a conscious decision to do those things and I'm being intentional with them. And it's an opportunity for me to come back to myself and heal deeper. So whenever I fall off or I feel disconnected, I'm like, okay, no, this isn't like a bad thing. I'm not going to shame myself. I'm just going to say this is an opportunity for me to bring it back and become closer to myself in a new way. Because when we fall off, we get a new opportunity to explore how to do things differently in our life, which
I
is
love
really
that.
living consciously and intentionally.
I love that. And before we get into what a spiritual practice is, I want to just talk about like starting on this journey. So, like I said, for me, I was just born programmed by my mom's belief systems because, you know, we pick up from our parents around us. Obviously, I've critically analyzed them since, and it's a belief system that I agree with. To understanding that I had a belief in a higher power and there was always something out there that was greater than me, outside of me, and that things happen for a reason and we were learning lessons from things and evolving through pain and evolving through beauty. So for me, it was just something that I kind of had always had inside of me. But I know for most people listening this, they might be listening because they don't have a spiritual practice, they are atheist, or maybe like you or so many others, they've actually come from religion and now they're thinking, maybe this actually doesn't work for me in the way that it once did. So tell me about how your spiritual practice started, because you mentioned anger and I'm like, girl, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, no, seriously. Okay, so like rewind, I'm like in high school and I was very known for just like being very outspoken, like with my family and with my boyfriend. I could definitely just say things that I didn't mean, just be angry, emotionally dysregulated, have angry outbursts. And I had so many moments with my actually same partner that I have now. We've been together 8 years and I'm 25. So it's really crazy. We broke up for a year in between and like, you know, we've grown so much together and gone through so many different phases, but it's still the same partner. And I would get fucking angry with him because the people that you're closest to are the people that are one, going to trigger you most, and two, you're going to feel most comfortable to be the most triggered version of yourself. So when I finally had this like partner who I was so close with and who was my best friend, whenever we would get into fights, I would definitely cross boundaries, say things that I didn't mean, and get really angry. And it came to the point where he was just like, Kayla, like, I love you so much, but like, this is feeling almost like emotionally like abusive. And I was like so young. I was like, 19. And I was like, okay, you're right. Like 100% taking full accountability. I'm going to get help. So my friend at the time recommended me her therapist and healer, and her name's Donza, and she became my mentor and healer. And it wasn't normal therapy. She's very spiritual, very maybe quote unquote woo woo or kind of out there. And I was super open because at this point, like I believed in the universe. Like I knew that, something else was protecting me. I always felt very protected, and I saw a lot of synchronicities in my life that showed me, okay, something is going on here. So then I started going to Donza. I read The Untethered Soul, which was the first thing that she assigned to me, which I feel like is such a staple in, the spiritual journey becoming. And then what Donza does is 45 minutes of the session is like talking therapy, maybe EMDR, maybe some tapping, maybe some like parts work, whatever really is going on that day, maybe some astrology. And then the second half is actually on the table. So what happened here on the table was we were able to tap into the theta state. So if you guys don't know, when we're talking right now, we're in alpha state or beta state with our brain waves. So we're very active, but actually to access those subconscious memories and heal deeper, we can do that with much more ease if we are in theta state, which is basically slowing our brain waves down. So when I would get put on the table and she would like actually physically massage me, it would send me into theta state. I could tap into my subconscious, and I really began reprogramming my mind through this state. And I just saw the results in my life immediately. My relationships improving, the way that I felt about myself improving, because, when I would have these angry outbursts, it would be followed with shame. So because I was experiencing that, it was like something I needed to heal, not just for those around me that I loved, even though that's the reason I started going, but healing it for myself and for my body, because the anger that I was experiencing, like I was physically hurting myself through the cortisol that I was creating, like the overproduction of cortisol in my body. And so that sent me into this whole journey, and I just got so curious, and she became my mentor. And then, I went down all the journeys of like astrology, past life, karmic relations, just read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts. Honestly, reading was like the biggest thing that just opened up my journey and expanded me, was just learning for myself and being like, oh, I'm no longer in a school system where I'm forced to, do math and science that I don't feel called to. I'm finally in a place where I can educate myself on what I truly am passionate about. And that was healing. So yeah, that's how I got on my journey. And now it's been like 6-7 years.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I think we don't talk about anger, and it's something we feel like ashamed of, and we all kind of pretend that we're not angry, but like anger's been a huge part of my journey and hasn't brought me really towards my spiritual practice in the way that it has with you, but it's definitely been a part of my journey.
Well, I think it was just like, wow, this is something that is no longer working for me. And it's a pattern that I kept going back to. And I always like to say, like, it's not the problem that's a problem. That's why you don't need a solution. It's a pattern that needs to be healed. And that really changed everything for me, because I was like, oh, I'm not broken. Nothing's wrong with me. This is just like something I practice over and over again to protect myself. And now it's showing up in my adult life in a way that is no longer serving me, because I don't need to protect myself in that way anymore.
I love that about it no longer serving me, because I think we all get to a point in our life where we're just like, this just kind of isn't really working for me. I'm either unhappy or I'm angry or I'm sad or I'm lonely or something just doesn't feel right. And actually that in itself, to anyone who's listening, is like enough to be like, hey, maybe there's a different way to think. Maybe there's a different way to act. Maybe there's a different way to kind of discover. You mentioned synchronicities. Okay, so let's talk about those, because I think one of the first signs when people start on their spiritual journey is they start to understand this concept of synchronicities. And tell me a bit about, from your perspective, what that is and how it ties into a spiritual practice.
Well, I think on the most basic level, people start seeing angel numbers, right? So maybe you'll be driving and you'll be having really self-deprecating thoughts, or you'll be stressing about something happening, and all of a sudden a car pulls out in front of you and the license plate is 777. I think that's a really kind of beautiful, simple way that gets people to notice that something is happening that is beyond the physical eye. And then it pours into more like, interactions and encounters. Maybe I'll be like, oh, like I really, want to be in a music video. Like that's something that's always been a dream of mine. And then, I'm journaling about it, speaking out loud about it, maybe talking to my friends about it. And then the next day, like I meet somebody who is in that industry and we have this connection. And it's just those little synchronicities through also relationships that showed me, oh, like I am so divinely guided. Like something else is going on. And then, it gets to the more even like complicated synchronicities where, for example, a big reason that I got closer to myself in my spiritual journey was through my grandma passing away, my bubby passing away when I was really young, before I was spiritual. But now I know later on in life, like she was very spiritual and we had a lot of things in common. But I started developing a relationship with her and the quote unquote like other side when I got into my spiritual journey, and I went to like a medium, and I didn't tell her I was coming in to talk to my grandma, but immediately she picked up on her energy. She's like, a woman's with you. She's super tiny and cute and energetic and bubbly, and even my psychic medium was like, like something like Bubba or something. And I was like, Bubby. And she's like, yes, 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 that's it. And this psychic medium didn't know me. She was on Zoom. And then, I started developing a relationship with my bubby, like on the other side. And it made me feel closer to spirit because, I just think that when we, pass away, like we return and to something greater than ourselves, that oneness, that wholeness, that quote unquote source, I would like to call it. Um, and one time I was laying in my bed and I was talking out loud to her. And I literally said to myself, God damn it, I sound fucking crazy right now. Like I was talking aloud to her, just being like, puppy, like, what should I do about this, And I was like, I sound like a crazy person. Like, if you are here, if you're listening to me, like, give me a sign today. And I was like, give me a sign of a butterfly. So in my head, right, I'm like, I'm probably going to see a butterfly, like, when I'm walking around. But the moment that I said that, I get a knock on my door. And this was like 5 years ago. So I was living with my parents at the time. And my dad opens the door. He's like, you got a package. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I don't remember ordering a package. And I open it up, and it was this necklace with butterflies all across it. And I was like, I didn't order this. I'm so confused. So I like looked back in my email, and I had like given a company like my address for PR 7 months before. 7 months before. And at this exact moment, when I was like, Bubby, show me a sign that you're listening, that you're here, my dad physically walked in with a butterfly necklace that I did not expect to get. That's a synchronicity where it's like, you can't make this up. Like, you don't know that you're so connected until it is proven to you. And the synchronicities that happen in your life, those are the proof.
I'm obsessed with this because so anyone listening to this podcast now is Healing Honeys. But before I was sat there at this crossroads thinking, I want to change the name. I feel called to change the name. Should I change it or not? And I was sat in this cafe, literally said the same thing. Give me a sign if I should change the name. Fine. Went up, went to pay. And as the woman handed me the check, her like t-shirt came up. There was bees all down her arm with honey, yellow, tattooed all down her arm. Since when have you ever seen anyone have honey tattooed on their arm?
And you were already thinking of the name Honey.
And I was thinking about it. I said, Healing Honeys, should I change the name? And that's what we mean by synchronicities, right? These things that someone who is not awake or does not have a spiritual practice, like they will tell you it's a coincidence. They will tell you that you're crazy, but you know it's not a
You know in your gut, like it gives me chills because what I like to say is it resonates, right? We always say, oh, that resonates with me. But what is resonance? Resonance means that whatever I'm saying and you're saying is existing at the same vibration of truth, and our actual vibrations are resonating at the same frequency. And that's why when something happens and you can feel and resonate with it, that it's truth, it's because you literally are existing at the exact same frequency. So someone else can't feel that because they're not in your same exact position or your same exact shoes. They don't know your life story. But when you feel it, it's just like a clear knowing. Like for me, I have a lot of anxiety, and there are moments where I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know if it's my intuition. I don't know if it's my anxiety. I've struggled with that a lot. But when I experience a synchronicity, I don't feel a bit of doubt in my bones. I know. It just and then I'll get chills on my body, and that feels like confirmation.
I get the chills as well. My mom gets them as well. Like it's a big sign for me that something is true or truthful. I call them truth bumps. So I love that you get them as well. Truth bumps.
I love that.
Like they're not goosebumps, they're truth bumps.
I love that.
True, pure spirit. And my mom she calls it the rush. She'll get this like crazy rush when we're talking about something that's like going to happen or et cetera, et cetera. I want to ask you about dreams. So we've spoken about angel numbers. And another thing I love about angel numbers is the first part of the journey is noticing them. The second part of the journey for me is noticing what you were thinking or doing when you saw it. So like start to write it down, anyone that's listening, in your notes app, because you can start to see like, oh, I was thinking about this and then the angel number appeared, or I was thinking negative and it appeared. You can start to see your patterns.
Totally. And something I would like to say is sometimes people are like, oh, I think something's going to happen. And then I see an angel number. Does that mean this bad thing's going to happen? Is it true? No. Sometimes spirit is trying to show you the angel number to be like, babe, we got you. We got you. You don't have to worry. Like maybe you're just overthinking too much. And it's not always a confirmation, but sometimes it's just a reminder that you have a whole fucking spirit team. Like you have guides, you have ancestors, you have past loved ones. Like you have so many people on your team that are constantly with you, that constantly have your back. And I feel like that's what the angel numbers show for me.
I love that. Let's talk about this spirit team. So
Yeah.
I also am on the same page with you about that. And I feel like same with my grandma. And I know that there's a team up there that are helping me, trying to get me towards who I'm meant to be and the purpose that I was put on this planet to do. Let's kind of talk through that. I guess we need to sort of dig into a bit of the concept of the other side and this sort of cyclical nature that, like, if you have a spiritual belief practice, you believe that we're never really dead. We're constantly changing form and living different lives and being reincarnated in different bodies. And of course, anyone that's listening to this that is on their religious journey or doesn't believe in this, like, that's okay. Maybe this episode isn't for you.
Totally.
But stepping into this for me was a huge part of faith in a spiritual practice, just knowing that there's so much more going on than this little 3D reality that I'm experiencing.
And faith is something that's like a muscle for me, you know? It's like something I didn't practice growing up because I didn't grow up in any religious structure. And gaining this faith is something that's like a constant daily practice where I have to remind myself. But that's where the synchronicities come in, right? They're like the reminders. And, you know, I think we could talk about the spirit team, but I just would encourage everyone to put out feelers there that they're open to receiving confirmation and receiving messages and just wait and see what happens, because I really believe that we need to create the proof ourselves.
Yeah. And for me, I've had a lot of action like in the dreamscape. So I don't particularly have, like, my mom like knows who her guides are. She knows a lot about her spirit team. I don't know anything about mine. It's not something that I've kind of like stepped into quite yet. But for me, I have crazy synchronicities in my dream. I have a lot of moments with loved ones that have passed or ex-boyfriends before we'd really managed to finish that soul tie experience together. And then sometimes things I dream about come true in real life. Do you have your dreams as part of your spiritual practice? Like, how does that work for you?
So for me, I did not have a connection with my dreams until actually this year. And I was like, always like, I can't remember my dreams, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just something that I always said. And for me, like, I definitely like smoke weed. So that's like something that makes people not remember their dreams. And I thought that I just would never remember my dreams. And then I actually started working with my friend Grace, who is one of my best friends now, and she's actually a dream practitioner. And she taught me, first of all, like, as soon as you wake up and you remember anything about your dream, title it. Like, if you can associate a title to the dream, it'll help you remember. And then something else that she told me that was really profound, that really changed my life, was that dreams are like poetry from the soul. They're our way that our spirit and our soul communicates to us in almost like cryptic messages that we have to decode. It's never like, oh my God, you have a dream where somebody dies or there's like a scary shooting or whatever, somebody's chasing you. Like, that's not going to happen in real life. It's probably like poetry. It's symbolism, right? And that's really what dreams are. And ever since I started doing this dream work earlier this year, I remember my dreams almost every night. I believe that tapping into our dreams can, you know, wake us up in our normal life and help us, you know, create our dream life in our waking world as well. And, you know, learning about my dreams and talking to friends about it and decoding what these messages mean have helped me undo, like you said, a lot of soul ties that didn't get finished, like past relationships, past friendships that felt like they just weren't fully done or weren't fully closed in my heart. The dreams have helped me move through them and create more forgiveness. And therefore, by clearing that out, create more expansion in my daily life.
Okay, we've got to get into soul ties. Let's talk about this.
Okay, yeah.
Something we've never spoken on the podcast. So it's something that I have struggled with intensely. I felt such intense connections to two people in my past that I would do a lot of soul tie cutting and they would come back. I would dream about them. I would think about them. The next day they would message me. It was very clear from my perspective, like this is a very intense soul tie. Then when I worked with my healer, who we spoke about on your podcast, he said to me, with this person, you have shared like 10 past lives together. It is absolutely crazy. The average person does not share that many. So the soul tie, like the strength of your experience is so strong, which is why it keeps reconnecting. That for me helped me understand that actually I'm not thinking about this person because I'm supposed to be with them. I'm not obsessed with this person because I'm supposed to be with them, which if you don't have a spiritual practice, you just think like, fuck, I'm obsessed with this person, like I'm supposed to be with them. But that's not
Totally.
always the truth. What do you think?
I think it's exactly what your healer said, that we just spend lots of lives with certain people and we may have hurt each other, both of us, in multiple lives, and we're just kind of running through those karmic cycles. And I had a best friend since I was 11 that I actually started skinny dipping with. And, we were like best friends. We started the podcast and then we ended up having a huge falling out. And that was like the greatest heartbreak of my life. Like, I don't think like it still makes me emotional, but we've been like quote unquote broken up as friends for like 3 years now. And it's still something that feels so heavy. Like they cross my mind all the time. And I think when we have this really strong connection with somebody, we can shame ourselves and fault ourselves and say, oh, like, why am I thinking about this person after they hurt me? And the truth is, like, it's just a lot of love, and with a lot of love that doesn't have anywhere to go, that's where grief exists. And I just really think with like soul ties, I love just honoring it and not questioning it as much and being like, I need to fix this. I need to change this. I need to get rid of this. I need to cut this. And instead just finding deeper gratitude for the lessons that connection or that disconnection, that breakup taught me, and just realizing like, wow, I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't get hurt by this person. Like getting hurt by somebody teaches us so much. And then on the other side, I've met people, I'm in a serious relationship, and I've met people that I'm like, whoa, we have this like crazy chemistry, right? And chemistry can be confusing. And I've gone to my guide and she's been like, girl, it's a past life karmic thing. And you feel like you know someone and they're familiar, but remember, you don't know who they are in this lifetime yet. And you can't make up stories from what you're feeling just because your soul remembers old versions of them, but you don't know who they are in this life, because it's not just your past lives that play into your current life. It's also obviously your childhood upbringing, your circumstances comes into a lot of somebody's personality. So we can feel like we know somebody when we don't. And I find that so often in early chemistries that people have really intense karmic connections. And it's like, just be mindful that you don't fully know who somebody is, even though you feel like you know them immediately.
I'm so happy you said that, because you feel like you know them, but you
100%.
actually do not know them. And it's because you've known them in every other past life probably that you've been with. Maybe they were your lover or your mother, because in these soul families, we can all be different places and we move around in different lives. I just am so obsessed that you said that, because I think more people need to understand that intense chemistry that you feel with someone, it doesn't mean you need to be with them. It just means you might have known them before. They're here to teach you something in this life, and it's not always being with you. Sometimes it's rejecting you, leaving you, hurting you, being inconsistent.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are the person you're supposed to be with, and it's so different for all.
But usually not.
Honestly. Usually not.
Honestly, like I feel like the person that is gonna make you feel like calm and safe, like that is the person that is most likely meant for you. And then there's the whole conversation like around soulmates. Like, is there one soulmate? Are there many soulmates? I feel like I have so many soul connections and soulmates, and there's never like one right way to do things. And I would love to like emphasize that too. And yeah, the karmic connections are crazy because you really do feel like you know this person or you've known them forever. And like we said, like maybe their purpose is to reject you or leave you or hurt you. And what really has helped me with my spiritual journey and just like bringing it back to the conversation of the spiritual journey is like everything that's hurt me and everything that has caused me pain or caused me grief has transformed me and alchemized me into the person that I am today. And like I said in our podcast earlier, our wounding is our wisdom that we share with the world. I do believe that all the hurt and pain plays into our greater purpose. And I think that's really the piece that the spiritual journey has brought me. And I think with karmic connections, like that one friend that I said, like the most painful breakup ever, like an 11-year best friend, sister that just like is no longer in your life anymore. I would not change it for the world, even though it was so painful. I'm like so grateful because I actually wouldn't be sitting here on this couch in London with you if that didn't happen. And it's just reminding ourselves, okay, the pain leads to this like greater purpose.
Oh, yeah, you are so right. The pain really does. And I actually went through a similar thing with the friendship, but we actually reconnected like 3 years later. And this person that I thought I'd lost forever actually came back around. So
I do feel like this person will come back around in my life at some point.
when the time is
when the time is divine.
Exactly. And I was like, she's never going to come back. You know, there were reasons that we couldn't be friends, blah, blah, blah. And a healer told me she'll come back. And if it's not in this life, it'll be in the next one. You'll be together again. And it did not take away the pain of losing my best friend.
Of course.
But then she came back around.
Yeah.
But sometimes people don't come back around. And what I've realized is that that is really when the cycle is ended. So with my ex, for example, for 2 years, dreamed about him all the time, thinking about him all the time. But when I finally healed the lessons that he had come here to taught me, shine a light on those wounds that I didn't even realize existed until I dated him 2.5 years down the line, I don't think about him anymore. I don't dream about him anymore.
Well, that's when you've alchemized it, is when you learn the lessons.
Talk about alchemy. People might not know what that is.
Totally. So alchemy for me is personally just taking heavier, dense emotions or heavier, dense experiences that can feel painful, overwhelming, and transmuting them through acceptance, through action, through love, and actually taking them and nurturing them and transmuting them into a more expansive energy. And I think we all experience this at some point, because imagine like when you're feeling really overwhelmed or really sad about something and then you cry and then you feel better. That is like alchemy in action. Like we are not only like soothing our bodies on like a scientific scale and like, you know, from that body perspective, but our actual soul is transferring that heavier energy into something that is lighter for us to carry. And that doesn't mean the pain completely goes away, but it just doesn't feel so overbearing anymore. So alchemy is really just transmuting heavier, dense emotions into lighter, expansive emotions. And actually, the painful emotions usually lead to your next opportunity or your next growth spurt or your next expansive moment. It's like the pull back of the arrow before you shoot it forward. Before every expansion, there is contraction. And I just have seen it in my life over and over and over again, that the times that I'm feeling the most stuck, the most not like myself, the most burnt out are those contraction periods, that pullback of the arrow, that the next moment that happens is a breakthrough in my career, an amazing new friendship made, an amazing new like level of artistry reached in, you know, my work, whatever I want to do. Like there is a new expansion happening after every contraction. And that is the process of alchemy.
Yeah. I love this so much. I love this so much. And I think that for me, my mom has always said to me, be patient. Your spirit guides are up there trying to work it all out for you, because you need to bump into that person who needs to recommend you to that person for you to get the email that you want. So she's always told me, be patient. It's happening as long as your intention is there and you are like clear about what you want, you know, stay true and it will happen. And I think that's kind of what you're saying is like there are times when things aren't happening and it feels unfair. Like you're trying to manifest, you're trying to alchemize, you're trying to do the right things and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So for me, spirituality has given me a level of patience. And I'm the least patient person in the world. Let me come out. Like I'm fucking impatient and frustrated as fuck constantly. But it's given me a level of patience, understanding like if not now, tomorrow, if not now, next week, if not now, next month. And maybe never if it was not the thing in your highest interest. Maybe something falls through because something better is going to happen. Something better is supposed to happen. What are your thoughts on that redirection, rejection piece?
Yeah, no, rejection is always redirection. Like I have seen it a million times in my personal life, and this is where it comes back to the proof. I think it's really important for us to remember and journal and think about the times in our lives where we really thought something wasn't going to work out, and then reflect on the way that it did work out, because not all the time, but most likely you'll notice, oh, like I see why this had to happen now. And we don't realize it at the time. And I just feel like it's tough because it's such like a theoretical thing. But if you just go back, like a little journal exercise, a little actionable item for you guys, like go back into your life to a time where you really thought something wasn't going to work out. And then, reflecting on what happened. And most likely you'll see, like, okay, like, even though I lost that relationship or that job, like it led me to this that was more aligned to me and really meant for me, which feels so good to know. And it's not always easy. I'm not gonna like lie and be like, and then it's great. It's like, no, it's fucking frustrating and it can be annoying. And I also struggle with impatience, but I definitely think that having a relationship with spirit, like something greater than myself, directly correlates to my relationship with myself. So for me, the closer that I am to connecting to something greater than me, whether that's like spirit, God, the universe, source, even just nature. Like for me, when I see nature, I just feel God. It makes me feel closer to myself. And the closer that I feel to myself and the more that I trust myself, the more that I can be patient in those situations that it feels like nothing's working out. And it's like, I get it. I get it. But also it's like, girl, where are you at in your cycle? Like, no, with my period, like in my hormones, like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, nothing's working out. And then I'm like, no, I'm just like clearing and cleansing out a cycle of frustration and emotion. And I know that after I move through it, if I don't like push it away, if I just like experience it and allow myself to get sucked into the portal, I will come out on the other side more expanded and just feeling more like myself than ever and feeling like I know myself more than ever.
Okay, this is stunning. My last question for you is, you mentioned feeling God. Okay, but we live in a society where we are so busy, constantly disconnecting, distracting, avoiding, disassociating, scrolling, flying, shopping, masturbating, you name it, the list goes on and on. A lot of people listening will be like, well, how do I do that? How do I start to feel God? So talk me through how in your day there might be some moments, that you connect with something bigger or greater than yourself. And I guess, how do you do that? Just for anyone listening.
I love that. Honestly, something that I just really love to do. Actually, like maybe we can just do it all now together. Okay. I love to like put my feet on the ground. I can't really fully reach right now, but
You're so cute and small.
I know I'm so tiny. I'm just a little 5'4" girl. I love to just like close my eyes and tune in and just ask my heart how it's feeling. I feel like the first connection always happens within. And just like taking deep breaths, I'll actually imagine a white light pouring over my head and all the way down my body, cleansing my energy, and I'll either feel it or I'll see it. And then from there, I love to imagine like white and gold roots growing from my feet into the earth's center and just watching them grow and grow and grow and feeling more connected to the earth, expanding into the earth, grounding my energy. And then from there, I love to feel the reciprocal relationship with the earth. Then I begin to ask the earth to pour into me. So then from my roots, I imagine a gold spiral of light crawling from the earth center up through the roots, up through my feet, up through my legs to the base of my spine, and then watching that spiral go all the way through my spine and to the top of my head, and then allowing that to expand above me. And then on the next deep breath, I'll imagine that spiral expanding like 3 feet above, below, and on the side of me. And just by grounding my energy inward and then accepting the energy back from the earth, which for me, the earth and nature is God, is spirit, is source in this physical earthly embodiment. That always just is like a quick thing that allows me to feel grounded in my day. It just feels so good, doesn't it?
I love that.
It feels so good. And then like the other thing that I would say is that spirit is everywhere. It's not just in meditation. It's not just in breath work. It's not just in, the prayers or in the books. It's not just in one space. Like when I go out to a coffee shop, like, can I stop looking on my phone and can I have a conversation with a stranger next to me? When I, am driving, instead of just scrolling on my phone, can I look out the window and like look out the architecture or look at the sky? can I just like go into my yard in between meetings on my computer, on my Zoom meetings, and can I just lay in the grass and like watch the trees and watch the clouds pass by? It's like as simple as that. And for me, like when I started noticing that like God, spirit, source, the universe is like everywhere, it's not just inside of me and outside of me, like it's everywhere. That's when I feel most connected, is when I'm living in that vibration where I'm like, oh wow, I'm always connected. Like even if I don't realize it, even if I'm not consciously connected, I am still connected. Like I'm still plugged in. And of course I can do the things like grounding, meditation, breath work, walks that make me feel closer to spirit and closer to myself. But it's really in everything and everywhere. And it's also in all the human things that we do. It's not better or worse or good or bad. It's like all the human things that we do have the capacity to also be divine. And it already is divine. Like for people that are like maybe skeptical, who probably aren't the people listening right now because we got this far, but even the things that don't seem divine, like are so divine because they're a part of this greater plan and this greater intervention that's happening. And every delay I've ever experienced always brings me like to the greatest joy ever. And I just have seen that in my life. And that has created the proof within myself to be like, okay, like spirit is everywhere. Like right now, like I'm just like, it's everywhere. Yeah.
That is the perfect place to end.
Thank you.
That was so special.
Because we don't have to do anything special, right? You know?
We are God.
Yeah.
Just as who we are. We are all interconnected. We are all going to go back to the same place that we came from, and then we're all going to come down again after this again. So let's just be nice to each other in this lifetime
and give ourselves grace.
Exactly, as we learn these lessons. Thank you so much. This was really, really special, and I loved every second of it with you.
Thanks for talking spirituality with me.
Pleasure. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Okay, I'm Kela Rose, and you can find me on all platforms at Sundazed KK. So Sundays, like when you're in the sun too long and you're happy but you're dazed, Sundazed KK. And then also the podcast is Skinny Dipping on all platforms. That is my baby. That is my joy. That is my art. That is my project. Just like Healing Honeys is for you, you know, like I get it. Like having a podcast is like having a child, and it's my favorite thing ever. And if you're into anything mental health and spirituality, it's definitely the place for you. So go check it out, and go check out the episode that we did with Louise on the show because it was so good.
It was good.
It was good.
We've had a good experience.
This was so beautiful. I hope it wasn't too theoretical for everyone, but I'm hoping that the words transmute like the knowledge that, you know,
No,
like,
this was perfect.
words carry vibration. So even just us speaking, people are like understanding it already.
I think we covered the real foundations for many people what a spiritual practice is, but they often wouldn't have somewhere to go to like listen to an episode talking about angel numbers, synchronicity, you know, karmic soul ties, past lives. We covered it all.
We really did. We did that. Oh,
That was the how to be a spiritual baddie 101 with Kela Rose.
the not basic edition,
Yeah.
to be honest, which I really liked. We didn't talk about like the basic things. We talked about like,
We went there.
we went there. We did that. Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much. We'll link everything in the show notes for you, and you'll have to come back again soon.
Can't wait. Bye, guys.
Bye.